Peace to everybody. This is about appeals court judges hammer Cosby defense team with challenges during oral arguments. And as you know by now, Bill Cosby was falsely convicted of a crime he did not do. People were lying on him. He may have admitted to only one sexual abuse case, and that was it. But other than that, all these women, they have lied on him constantly. So, because they were mad because Bill Cosby was going to buy the NBC, so they took it and destroyed his legacy. His name has been removed from colleges or anywhere else he had his name. And of course, with Andrea Constant, she was the nail in the coffin. But first of all, Andrea Constant is a lesbian. So why would Bill Cosby touching that? She looks like a man, seriously. And Andrea Constant lied just to please her mother. Did Bill Cosby, the only brand name celebrity to be convicted of sexual assault since the dawn of the nationwide #MeToo movement in 2017, get a fair trial? No, Bill Cosby did not get a fair trial. He was lied on constantly by all these women. They came out and said, oh, Bill Cosby did this and Bill Cosby did that to me. It was not a fair trial. The judge had believed over the DA's arguments than the prosecutors. All these women that came out and told lies on Bill Cosby. So how could he have gotten a fair trial? The comedian says no, and on Monday his fourth team of attorneys got what could be Cosby's final shot at convincing a Pennsylvania court to free him from state prison. So Bill Cosby said no, it was not a fair trial. And of course on Monday, his fourth team of attorneys that he has right now could be Cosby's final shot at convincing a Pennsylvania court to free him from state prison. So Bill Cosby had gotten a 10-year sentence. And of course, Bill Cosby could barely see it all. He is really sick, and he don't deserve to be in prison. That's not where he belongs. And of course, everybody are saying, well, he did this and did. No, he did not do anything. He only confessed to one. And then where did all these 50 women came from? They all lied on him. Dickerson, she's a drug addict. There's another woman who is a drug addict. They lied on him. Yet a seemingly skeptical panel of state superior court judges peppered his attorneys repeatedly with challenges to the defense team's arguments, while barely interrupting two state prosecutors during their presentation over roughly an hour of oral arguments at an appellate court hearing in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So the prosecutors kept interrupting, and it was roughly over an hour of oral arguments. Of course, you got the state superior court judges peppered his attorneys repeatedly with challenges to defense team's arguments. While Pennsylvania Superior Court rulings can be appealed in the state Supreme Court, that court can choose whether or not to hear the case. So it's up to them whether they want to hear the case or not. And if I were them, they better hear it real fast, because you know what? Bill Cosby don't belong in prison at all. I mean, seriously, 10 years? This man is totally sick. He could barely see. He has health problems. There is no way these guards are going to meet his medical needs in prison. The Superior Court panel's ruling on Cosby's appeal will be issued in writing at an unspecified future date. So there will be an appeal decision ruling on by the Superior Court panel's ruling, but it doesn't say the expected date. It says unspecified future date. So it all depends on what date they will get their date to make their ruling. At the heart of Cosby's voluminous appeal is the contention that the trial judge's decision to allow 5 women to testify to additional uncharged crimes was unfairly prejudicial to his defense. So there was Cosby's voluminous appeal in the contention that the trial judge's decision to allow 5 women to testify to additional uncharged crimes. So these women came out and lied about it. There was no police report from those women at all. None. They all lied. In April 2018, Cosby, who was not in court for Monday's oral arguments, was convicted of 3 counts of indecent assault and battery for drugging and sexually assaulting former Temple University basketball coach Andrea Constant in 2004. He was sentenced in September of that year to 3 to 10 years in prison. Well, first of all, that's a lie. Andrea Constant is a liar and she's a drug addict. And plus, she looks like a man, literally. So what? She did it to please her mother because her mother is telling her, go ahead and lie on Bill Cosby. Tell him that he sexually assaulted you. What kind of mother tells their daughter that? She's a lesbian. LGBTQ community, Andrea Constant, yeah. She's mad because she was kept lying on Bill Cosby just to please her mother, because her mother was mad that Bill Cosby broke up with her. So who cares? Who cares what the mother wants? Just because Bill Cosby was not good enough for her? And Andrea Constant had to go and lie on Bill Cosby, saying that he sexually assaulted her and drugged her, allegedly? Come on, what kind of woman is this? She's a psychopath. And so is her mother. And of course, as you can see here, here's Bill Cosby himself. That was, I guess, going to court or coming from court, whichever one it was. State law prohibits the introduction of uncharged criminal accusations into court trials, but there is an exception if the prosecution can convince a judge that there's an underlying pattern of prior bad acts. And in Cosby's case, there were multiple sexual assault allegations against him. No, there wasn't. It's all a lie. This is why the news media is lying to you. And you're going to believe what the news media tells you with all these lies? Really? Then you're just as corrupt as the news media is. Now they're trying to say, oh, well, prior to bad acts. And in Cosby's case, there were multiple sexual assault allegations against him. No, there wasn't. They all lied on this man for no reason at all, because they wanted his money. That's what they wanted. They wanted to destroy his legacy, and they did, because it was all about the money. And of course, Bill Cosby was going to buy the NBC, but no. Instead, they took that away from him. They destroyed everything he worked hard for. Since being used twice against Cosby by prosecutors in Montgomery County, the strategy of petitioning a court to introduce additional witnesses with similar sexual assault allegations has cropped up in other high profile cases. In New York, a state Supreme Court judge is currently deciding whether or not to allow additional accusers to testify to uncharged crimes in a sexual assault case against Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. Now, why not go after Harvey Weinstein? There's one man you should go after. They should go after him, not Bill Cosby. Now you got a strategy of petitioning to court to introduce additional witnesses with similar sexual assault allegations. Why not charge Harvey Weinstein? Why should he get to walk around the streets of New York and Bill Cosby is in prison in Pennsylvania? What's wrong with this picture? Of course, Cosby, by prosecutors in Montgomery County. Ugh. Uncharged crimes, that means there was no crimes committed, nothing. But yet they allow Harvey Weinstein to walk around the streets of New York. Seriously? Come on. The strategy is testing a still evolving area of law in a new era of heightened scrutiny of suspected serial sex predators and a nationwide reevaluation of state statute of limitations laws governing sex crime prosecutions. Alright, so the sex crime assault statute of limitations is 8 years literally. And yet the strategy is testing a still evolving era of law into a new era of heightened scrutiny. Really? And governing sex crimes prosecutions. Now, suspected serial sex predators in a nationwide reevaluation? Really? Come on. Why wait 50 years later for these women to come out and tell them, well, Bill Cosby did this and Bill Cosby did that? No, he didn't. If that was the case, where are the police reports? Where's the evidence of the police report? I want to see the police report of these so-called sexual assault crimes against them, allegedly, because there is none. During Cosby's first trial in 2017, which led to a hung jury and mistrial, the prosecutor sought 13 prior bad acts witnesses and were allowed to present one. Oh, only one? That's all? Why not multiple, since they all lied on him? There were no police reports, no court trials for these saying, oh, well, he did this and did that. Bill Cosby only admitted to one. That was it. And of course, during Cosby's first trial in 2017, which led to a hung jury and mistrial. Yeah, because they could not decide whether to either find him guilty or not. So it was a mistrial. In the second trial, the same Pennsylvania trial judge Stephen P. O'Neill allowed 5 of 19 women sought by prosecutors to take the stand. Their testimony and some were devastating, though jurors from the second trial issued a statement crediting Constan's testimony on the witness stand as the primary factor in their anonymous guilty verdict. So Andrea Constan's testimony had nailed Bill Cosby with her lies. She came out and said, well, yeah, he sexually assaulted me, he drugged me, this and that. First of all, Andrea Constant does look like a man, seriously, with that ugly hairdo that she's got. Ugh, it's ugly. Blech. And then, of course, they allowed 5 women out of 19 sought by prosecutors to take the stand. Only 5 women, and Andrea Constant was one of them. Who the hell wants to touch Andrea Constant? She is with the LGBTQ community. She likes women, not men. Simply put, we were asked to assess the credibility of Miss Constance's account of what happened to her, and each one of us found her account credible and compelling, the juror said in a statement at the time. Oh, of course the jurors are gonna believe her lies because that's what they do. This is all a setup. This was all a setup to get Bill Cosby out of the way because these women wanted their money. They wanted Bill Cosby's money because he was a millionaire, maybe even a billionaire. It all depends on which one it was. And Andrea Constand had lied for her mother just to please her. What kind of mother allows their daughter to do this? She should have told Andrea Constand, no, don't do this. But no, Andrea Constand's mother is an evil woman, just like Andrea Constand herself. The thorny issue of allowing additional accusers, whether it's warranted given a clear pattern of behavior or whether it's overly prejudicial to the defendant, was the object of debate among legal experts and scholars who spoke with ABC News last year prior to Cosby's second trial. So you know ABC News is a bunch of liars. Of course they're lying. They twist words around that are not true. Why do you think the truth is hidden all the time? And of course, they allow this mess. Really? Additional accusers, whether it's warranted given a clear pattern of behavior or whether it's overly prejudicial to the defendant. Really? And of course, experts and scholars who spoke with ABC News last year prior to Cosby's second trial. And of course, you know, all these liars, they're paid actors. Get it to your head. They're paid actors. That's what they are. This is why they're lying on Bill Cosby for no reason. In its appeal, Cosby's defense team calls the decision to allow 5 women to testify and a 6 through transcripts experts clearly erroneous and an abuse of discretion. So in appeals, they allow 5 women to testify just to put him in jail. Well, those 5 women lied. They don't got their story straight. They don't. And a 6 through transcripts excerpts, I don't know, clearly errors and an abuse of discretion. Really? Seriously? Where are those women's police reports? I want to see them. Where are they? Those women that testified, they said they were allegedly sexually assaulted. Where are those police reports? Huh? Why didn't the police make reports out about that? Because there is none. And these women have lied on him. This evidence was used to strip Cosby of his presumption of innocence and to try to establish that Cosby had the propensity to sexually assault women. This evidence never should have been admitted at trial, defense attorneys wrote in the appeal. Of course it shouldn't have been presented at trial because it was a lie. All 50 women? Really? 50 to 60 women? Really? Years later, after this was allegedly happening, and no police reports came out with it because it was not true. He only admitted to 1. That was it. Nothing else. As Cosby defense attorney Christian Weinzenberger sought to describe in Monday's oral arguments, what she said was the arbitrary nature of the judge's decision to allow different numbers of prior bad acts. Witnesses in the first and second trials, Superior Court Judge John Bender interrupted her, saying, "Well, it's not arbitrary," before suggesting she move on. So Christian Weisenberger, I never heard of her, so she's a defense attorney. She sought to describe in Monday's oral arguments that she said was the arbitrary nature of the judge's decision. Why would it be arbitrary to the nature of the judge's decision? Only the judge has the right to decide whether he was guilty or not. But no, the defense team had made it clear to have the judge believe them over the prosecutors, because they were paid off, literally. Don't you think instead of talking numbers, shouldn't we talk about was there a pattern established by the testimony of the prior bad acts witnesses in the second trial? Bender wondered aloud. Yeah, don't you think there should have been? Don't you think instead of talking numbers, shouldn't we talk about whether was there a pattern established by the testimony? Yeah, numbers. Yeah, numbers mean everything, but sometimes that is. But not all the time. But 5 women came and testified and lied. And then, of course, Andrea Constant had to be the nail in the coffin with her lies, just to please her mother. And, of course, Andrea Constant was paid off to testify against Bill Cosby for a lie that that didn't happen to her. When Weisenberger, standing beneath a Tiffany-stained glass skylight dome in the ornate courtroom, went on to argue that the jury instructions regarding these witnesses unfairly made Cosby sound guilty of those acts, Bender again interrupted to insist that Weisenberger clarify her argument. Well, Weisenberger was right. They unfairly made Cosby sound guilty. She was right about that. It was unfairly. And I believed Weisenberger. Yes, she was standing under a Tiffany-stained glass skylight dome. And now the judge, or Bender, I don't know if he's the judge or the attorney, I forgot which one he was, but he again interrupted to insist that Weisenberger clarify her argument. Clarify about what? These women all came out of the woodwork like spiders and lied on this man. And of course, here is a picture of Bill Cosby himself, who is sitting in prison still. I mean, this man does not belong in prison at all. I mean, he could barely see, he could barely walk. He's got to hold on to somebody because his eyes are not that good anymore. And this man is in his 80s. Come on. Why can't this man be left alone? These are prior bad act witnesses, not prior convictions, he said. Oh, so now he's saying these are prior bad act witnesses and not prior convictions. Of course, Bender would have to say that. When she argued that the 5 additional witnesses' accounts were not significantly similar and began to detail their differences, Bender again cut her off. Well, Bender needs to shut his mouth and let her talk. Let Weisenberger talk. Why cut her off again? She was getting to that point, but Bender had cut her off again from all this. He gives them drugs, and then he has sex with them, Bender stated. That's the pattern. Is it not? Give them drugs? Come on. Really? Why? I mean, this is how screwed up the court system is. They take the attorney's side, but don't care what the prosecutors have to say. Really? Come on. A second judge, Caroline Nichols, then interjected that in 4 of the 5 of those women's accounts, it was a mentor situation in which Cosby is alleged to have first presented himself to them as a potential mentor or supporter of their various careers, which included acting and modeling. So now you got acting and modeling involved. Okay, we could go with that, but Bill Cosby is alleged to have first presented himself to them as a potential mentor. So a mentor, that means you mentoring them on either your acting or modeling, whatever you're into. But all these alleged false allegations, come on, I really can't go with that because, this is totally unfair for Bill Cosby to be in jail right now. When Weisenberger noted that the ages varied among these 5 women at the time of their alleged sexual assaults by Cosby, the third judge on the panel, Susan Peekes Gantman, interrupted her again to return to the notion of a signature criminal pattern, which Peekes Gantman described at beginning with a mentorship, followed by an innovation and intoxication. Now we're going to throw the intoxication in the middle of everything. Now they're trying to say, oh, Bill Cosby sexually assaulted him by giving him drugs and by getting them drunk. Really? Come on. All this is a criminal lie to them. And and it's like really terrible what they're saying about him. I mean, come on. I don't know. I mean, come on. What they're saying about Bill Cosby is a total lie because I don't believe anything they're saying about him. Nothing. Bill Cosby has never done anything wrong because if he did, it would have been on the news like 50 years ago, it would have been on. But why 50 or 60 years later wait all this time to say something, allegedly? Oh, he did this and did that. Huh? Bender then again suggested that the defense attorney move on. Well, of course, he's telling the attorney to move on. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm excited to hear the next issue, he said. So now he's excited to hear the next issue. What the hell is Bender thinking? The prosecution and defense were both given 15 minutes limits on their oral arguments, including questions from the judges, but ultimately each side spoke before the court for about a half hour. Alright, so they gave 30 minutes of their side of what allegedly happened or allegedly didn't happen. The prosecution and defense were both given 15-minute limits on their oral arguments. So after that 50 minutes, they're cut off. But ultimately, each side spoke before the court for about a half hour. Why only 30 minutes? That's all you get? Well, I would have stayed at 15 minutes and no longer. Cosby's lawyers also challenged a December 2016 decision, reaffirmed ahead of the second trial, denying Cosby's bid to suppress his deposition testimony from a civil lawsuit as part of a lawsuit brought against him by Constant. So Andrea Constant was filing a lawsuit against him. Now I don't know what for, but whatever that was for, I have no idea. But of course, the December December 2016 decision reaffirmed ahead of the second trial, denying Cosby's bid to suppress his deposition. And of course, there was a civil lawsuit that was brought against him by Constant. And of course, like I said, Constant looks like a man. You can't believe nothing what she says. And for everybody to believe in Constant, your brains are mush. They're made from mushrooms. Think ahead. Think with your brains. Think about what Constant is saying. Think about the lies she is telling. In November 2006, Constant received a civil settlement with Cosby for $3.38 million, according to court records, which states that she agrees that she will not initiate any criminal complaint against Cosby arising from the underlying facts of this case. She was ultimately subpoenaed by Montgomery County District Attorney Kevin Steele to testify in the criminal case against Cosby. So in November of 2006, Constant received a civil settlement for $3.38 million, according to court records, because she lied on him and just to please her mother. Think about how evil her mother is. You gotta think about that. Why would her mother want Andrea Constant to please her? Think about it. And of course that she agrees that she will not initiate any criminal complaint against Cosby. Well, as soon as that money ran out, she went back years later to testify against Cosby and say, oh, well, he did this and did that. That was to please her mother. Think about it. Think about what that mother is doing to Constant. Cosby's attorneys argue in his appeal that the only reason he waived his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and participated in the civil deposition by lawyers for Andrea Constant was that then Montgomery County District Attorney Bruce Castor had ended a criminal investigation into the incident with a 2005 press release saying he did not intend to criminally prosecute the actor and comedian on the basis of Constant's allegations. Well, Constant's allegations were false. That's what they were. And I'm surprised they don't throw her in jail for falsely accusing Bill Cosby of sexually assaulting her. They did not do nothing about her. She perjured herself in court and saying, oh, he did this and did that. Now, of course, the Montgomery County District Attorney Bruce Castor, who I never heard of before, had ended a criminal investigation into the incident. Even Cosby's attorney argued in his appeal that the only reason he waived his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and participated in the civil deposition by lawyers for Andrea Constant. Yeah, because Andrea Constant falsely accused Bill Cosby of sexually assaulting her, allegedly. That deposition introduced into a trial of admission by Cosby, who declined to take the stand in his own defense at either of his trials, that during the 1970s he acquired quaaludes, a narcotic, in order to give to women prior to consensual sexual encounters, and that he had given them to one woman. He claimed in the deposition that several blue pills he gave Constant to relax were the allergy medicine Benadryl. Prosecutors have said that suspect, but have never been able to prove that Cosby in fact gave her something much stronger. So, of course, 1970s, he acquired quaaludes, a narcotic, in order to give to women prior to consensual sexual encounters, allegedly. But it was only one woman that he gave it to, and Andrea Constant was not one of them, but of course she may have been one. She allegedly was one of them, and and of course he told well, he claimed in the deposition that several blue pills he gave Constant to relax were the allergy medicine Benadryl. Why would you give Benadryl? It's an allergy medicine, yes, because if you're allergic to something, say like for example, dust, pollen, pet dander, anything that you're allergic to, yeah, you can take Benadryl for that. But prosecutors have said they suspect but never been able to prove that Cosby in fact gave her something much stronger. So they could not prove nothing that Bill Cosby gave something to Andrea Constant. That's how much she lied on him and threw that nail in a coffin. And of course, here's the liar herself, Andrea Constant, who looks like a man, literally. I mean, look at her hairdo. What? I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if to call it a frizzy dog hair or what. What is this? This is a liar. This is the woman who lied on Bill Cosby just to please her mother. And her mother is evil, as you may now know, because she wanted her daughter to lie on Bill Cosby just to please her at all cost. And Andrea Constant had no right to lie in court on Bill Cosby. Prosecutor challenged this claim in their appellate response as well, saying that these statements coming from the defendant's own mouth demonstrate that he had access to knowledge of and a motive and intent to knowingly use a central nervous system depressant, a substance he knew could render a female unconscious for the purpose of engaging in sex acts. Now that's a damn lie right there. Prosecutor challenged this claim in their appellate response as well, saying that these statements coming from the defendant's own mouth. Alright, they demonstrate that he had access to knowledge of. Knowledge of what? This is what I like to know. A knowledge of what? And a motive to attempt to knowingly use a central nervous system depressant? What nervous system depressant is there? We would like to know that. The comedian has emphatically denied over having involuntary sexual contact with or forcibly drugging anyone. Of course he's denying it because it's not true. It never happened. And this is why the Cosby Show has been taken off TV, because of all these allegations that are not true at all. They lied on him 50, 60 years later. What? What kind of, who makes a, and of course you know it's all scripted, obviously. Seriously, it's all scripted. And these people are getting paid to lie. Think about it. Money is involved. People are getting paid to lie on this man. Members of the 3-judge state Superior Court panel on Monday repeatedly questioned Cosby's contention that he believed Castor's promise was binding. So members of the 3-judge state Superior Court were on the panel Monday repeatedly questioned Cosby's contention. Now I don't know what that means, but of course sooner or later I'm going to find that out. Of course, that he believed Cosby's promise was binding. Well, Bill Cosby never did anything, so these women, they're all drug addicts, obviously. They're lying, saying all this and that, and blah, 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 and it's like, what? What are you talking about? How can an elected official bind an office in perpetuity with just a press release? Superior Court Judge Carolyn Nichols wondered. It is not reasonable to anyone to think an elected district attorney could bind the office beyond the term of the DA. How is it reasonable to think that? And that is true. How reasonable is to think that? Superior Court Judge Carolyn Nichols wondered about that. It is not reasonable to anyone to think an elected district attorney. Well, do you know what? The elected district attorney needs to go. I don't know if it's a he or she, but whoever it is, need to get out of the office. Get out. And of course, it's just so sad that Bill Cosby has been lied on for so many reasons that he has not done anything to them. She went on to point out that according to the prosecutor's appellate response, Castor said he did not agree to never prosecute Cosby and said instead of that, anything Cosby said would not be used to advance a new criminal prosecution based on Constand's allegations. Well, Constand's allegations were false. Now, if Bill Cosby would have taken the stand, he would have told them the truth that he never did anything with them. But instead, he chose not to testify on 2 court trials. He never did. He never took the stand at all. Because he was afraid that nobody was going to believe him. The DA would have never believed him. Even when Bill Cosby was going to tell the truth that he never did anything, except only to one woman, and that was it. But all these women like Janice Dickerson and another woman or whatever that are drug addicts, allegedly, yeah, they lied on him. And of course, Andrea Constand had to be the biggest nail in the coffin to lie on him. When defense attorneys sought to argue that Judge O'Neill should have recused himself because of alleged animus between him and Castor arising from a 1999 incident, the judges wondered aloud why neither man had similarly sought to recuse himself over the incident during subsequent years during which Castor tried cases before O'Neill and other judges as Montgomery Court prosecutor. Yeah, why didn't the judges recuse themselves? They should have recused themselves. Of course, you got O'Neill and Castor arising from a 1999 incident. The judges wondered aloud why neither man had similarly sought to recuse himself. Well, why didn't they? They should have recused themselves, then this would have never happened. But instead they chose to stay on as judges. Castor tried cases before O'Neill and other judges as Montgomery County prosecutors. Meanwhile, the few times the judges interrupted the Montgomery County prosecutors who spoke at length before the court, they only did so to seek clarification or even injected to expand upon the prosecutor's arguments at certain points. Yeah, there was only at certain points that they argued the clarification, I guess, and of course there were certain parts they had to arguments on. Prosecutor Adrian Jape, who works in the district attorney's appellate unit, called any dissimilarities between the accounts of the 5 women who testified at the second trial and consequential distinctions. Yeah, so there was a prosecutor, Adrian Jape. I don't know that name either. But she works in the district attorney's appellate unit called any dissimilarities between the accounts of the 5 women. Well, the 5 women definitely lied on him, so they were paid pretty good money. The signature is not the actual sexual assault, she said, describing an alleged pattern by Cosby of befriending and grooming the women to believe he could help them in their careers in order to gain their trust before isolating them, drugging them, and sexually assaulting them. She said that one of the 5 women who testified said she doesn't recall what happened after she was drugged and lost consciousness. Well, of course she don't recall because it never happened. One of the women out of 5 testified, and she says she don't recall what happened after she was drugged and lost consciousness. Really? Where did that come from? She has lied on Bill Cosby, saying that he did this and did that. But she don't recall it because it never happened. Jape argued that Cosby shouldn't be benefited or rewarded because one of the women couldn't clearly recall what happened after she said she lost consciousness. And of course, Cosby shouldn't be benefited or rewarded. He shouldn't. But instead, because of the woman couldn't clearly recall what happened. Because nothing happened during that time. And they're trying to say that he groomed these women? Please get a life, you crazy mainstream media. They're all a bunch of liars. This is why they lie on people so much. Because nothing happened. This is to cover up the pedophilia. That's what this is about. It's to cover it up. None of these women were sexually assaulted. Andrea Constand lied just to please her mother. In a statement outside the courtroom, Cosby spokesman Andrew Wyatt said that Mr. Cosby is very hopeful that these judges will grant him a fair and impartial trial that he did not have. And it's true, Bill Cosby did not have a fair trial. He didn't. It was all one-sided as usual because the judge believed the district attorney. That's what happened. The judge believed everything that the district attorney has said with their lies. Now you figure that out. Why would the district attorney lie? Saying, oh, well, Bill Cosby should be in jail. Because they were paid a pretty good amount of money to lie. And the prosecutors, they never got their fair and impartial trial that Bill Cosby should have had. Because Bill Cosby did not go on the stand at all. He wasn't going to. But if Bill Cosby were to take that stand in the first place, then he would have been found acquitted of all these charges. But instead, Andrea Constand, who looks like a man with her hair look like a dog fur, or whatever you want to put it, she gave the nail in a coffin by lying, saying, oh, he did this and did that, just to please her mother. Now, I ask you, would you believe Andrea Constand or not? I mean, come on. Why would she do this to her, just do this to him, just to please her mother? Seriously, her mother is evil. She got mad when Bill Cosby left her. And of course, Andrea Constand turned out to be a lesbian, allegedly, because she don't like men no more. Now that Andrea Constant only dates women. Think about it. Leave your comments below. I am out.